We are in section 11.4, so here we're going to talk about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So these are three different types of investments that you can make that hopefully make you some money. So I've linked a video to Khan Academy that does a lot of explanation, but here I'm going to be depending on you all reading, and we're just going to do examples because all the other videos are so long. I want to try to keep this one shorter. So we have a stock that has an annual dividend of 84 cents per share, and we want to calculate the dividends paid to a shareholder who has 200 shares of the company stock. So our solution is going to be the price per share, which we said was $0.84, times the number of shares, 200, and that's going to be equal to the dividends. So when we do that on our calculator, we get 168, and again this is dollars. So that means that the shareholder would receive $168 in dividends. Example 11.4.2, calculate a dividend yield. A stock pays an annual dividend of $1.75 per share. The stock is trading at $70. Find the dividend yield. So here what we're trying to do is find the percentage. So this is going to be kind of similar to simple interest and what we did with simple interest. So we're really basing this off of the I equals PRT equation. Again, that was from simple interest. Okay, because this is an annual dividend, so we can apply simple interest. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find R. So our interest earned is $1.75. The stock is trading at $70, so that's our principal. And then our time here, again, this is an annual dividend, so it's just 1 year. So plugging all of this in, we get 1.75 equals 70 times R times 1. And when we calculate 70 times 1, we get 1.75 equals 70R. Dividing by 70, R would be 175 divided by 70, which gets us 0.25. Remember, this is a rate, so we want to write it as a percentage. So we get 2.5% because we multiply that by 100 to convert it to a percent. Next, we're going to look at example 11.4.3. For this one, you need the table on page 707. It's called table 11.2. So the big idea here is that we're trying to figure out the profit that we make from the stock. In part A, we're going to ignore the dividends and figure out if there's profit or loss. And then in part B, we're trying to figure out how much the broker gets. So brokers get commission. So the big idea here is that we just use our table. So when we're looking at the stock profit, means that the selling price was bigger than the purchase price. Okay, if we were to lose money, that means that we'd have a negative profit. So here we have 500 shares, and we know how much we own per share, and then the closing price is from that table. So looking on the table, we look for Kimberly-Clark, and we're looking at the closing price, which would be $61.68. So we get 500 at $61.68 minus our purchase price, which we're told was $52.41. Multiplying each of those together, 500 times $61.68 would give us $30,840. 500 times $52.41 would give us $26,205. So that means the profit made when we take that difference would be $4,635. Now when we try to find the broker's commission, the commission cut is 2.4%, and then this is based off of the closing costs. So the broker's commission is going to be equal to the closing costs times 2.4%, whatever his percent commission is. And that's going to change based on the firm. So we already determined that the closing cost was $30,840 from above, because remember, closing cost was the number of shares times our 6168, that actual closing cost. So in our case, that was the 30,840, and that's going to be multiplied by a percent. Now remember, a percent we convert to a decimal, so it'd be 0.024, or you could divide 2.4 by 100. Either way, you get the same answer. And when we multiply those together, we find that the broker earned $740.16, rounding to the nearest penny. Alright, now we're going to turn our attention to bonds. So bonds are, again, kind of based off of simple interest. So here we have a bond with a $10,000 face value, and we have a 3% coupon with a 5-year maturity date. We want to calculate the total of the interest payments to the bond holder. So what happens with a bond is you get an interest payment every time that you cycle through. So in our case, it's just going to be each year because it's annual interest payments. So here, P would be our face value, so P would be 10,000. R would be our coupon rate, so 3%. So when we convert that to a decimal, 0.03. And then again, we're doing annual interest payments, so that tells us T equals 1, or NE would equal 1, same thing. So when we plug this in, we're going to use I equals PRT, so 10,000 times 0.03 times 1, and when we plug all of that together, we get $300. So that means we get $300 each year based off of this bond. But because it's 5 years and we want to figure out the total interest, that means because we get $300 each year, then we just multiply that by 5. So we're going to take we're just multiplying I by 5. So again, this was from the term of the bond. So 5 times 300, so that would give us 1,500. Would be the interest payments paid to the bond holder. So now we turn our attention to mutual funds. Here we have a new formula introduced, and it's called the net asset value of the fund, or the NAV, NAV. So the NAV is equal to A minus L divided by N. Okay, so A is the total fund assets, L is the liabilities, and N is the number of shares outstanding. Let's look at an example. So in example 11.4.5, we're going to calculate the net asset value, the NAV, and we're also going to figure out the number of shares purchased in a mutual fund. So let's do the NAV first. So here we have a mutual fund that has $600 million in stock, $500 million in bonds, $100 million in cash. Then we have the liabilities, about $2 million, and there are 25 shares outstanding, and we invest 15,000. So there's just a lot going on here, but don't worry. So our assets are going to be the sum of the 600 million, the 5 million, and the 1 million. So that would be 606, and again that was in millions. Our liabilities, we were told, are 2 million, and our outstanding shares are 25 million. So notice here all of this is in millions. So because it's all in millions, the units end up canceling. So our net asset value is going to be our assets, 606, minus the liabilities, 2, over the net value, 25. And when we calculate that, we get 604 divided by 25, or 24.16 would be the net asset value of the fund, $24.16. So if we want to invest, what we do is we're going to take the money that we invest, and that's going to be equal to the value of each share, that net asset value of the fund, so 24.16, times the number of shares we buy. That's unknown right now, so I'm going to call that X, the number of shares we buy. So to get X, we're going to divide by 24.16, because that's the price per share, which tells us that we're going to get 620 shares from this mutual fund.